these spike proteins are absolutely raising havoc on the reproductive systems, the brain. I mean, there's not a system that isn't affected by these spike proteins. One of the most powerful tools we have to reduce that spike protein, that inflammation, is a low-dose GLP-1.
One of the things I love that you said was that there isn't a visit that you have with a patient where you're not talking about exercise and diet.
You can't live health without exercise. You can't live health without food. It's about creating life change. Take it that next step forward. It's really about a life of health, to live health, which I know that sounds kind of simple, but yet it really isn't simple, but yet we can make it simple. We can have all the money in the bank, but if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
Kristi Fury.
Yes.
Family nurse practitioner from New Mexico, seeing patients all over the state and probably beyond. I'm not sure. Do you do that as well?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, that's fantastic. And the name of your charity is 413 Journey.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So the founder, Chris Youngblood, it's kind of a cool story. He's now a structural engineer, but he grew up homeless. And so then he went to, I believe it was the military. I forget which branch. It was either military or army, and has just had huge success. And then he started this organization probably 5 years ago or so. And just because he had some very influential mentors for him when he was homeless. And, he's told the story of, basically someone kind of got him off the streets and said, why, you don't need to be on the streets here. You need to go join the army. And so, yeah, that's kind of what started his path. And then it's a branch off of LifeQuest, which is for the juvenile detention, at-risk teens. And that is the whole basis of 413, obviously faith-based, Philippians 4:13. But it's really, understanding that all of our teenagers are at risk. They really, especially with our society. And, I've had a few, you apply for it, and there is absolutely an application for it. And then they do weekly meetings, and it's always based off of some leadership, like integrity and so they have definitely a structure. And then at the end, once you finish the program, I think the average program takes about 12 to 16 weeks. I'm not first. They go hike the Grand Canyon from rim to rim. So, yeah. And so I help with that as far as the physicals, making sure the kids are fit enough to do it. And then, I think it's amazing. I mean, you have kids of all different social economical status that do this. I mean, it's not just, for the typical kids that you would think that would be getting there. I mean, some kids, they go to private school. I mean, again, I think the premises that I've learned through volunteering through his organization is that there isn't really a teenager that isn't at risk, no matter what their status is as far as social economic.
It's a tough time in life.
Mm-hmm.
And now more than ever, with all the social media and, this sort of, I've got to look a certain way. And so I think you're considerably younger than I am, but, I think it was tough when I was a teenager. So you have a place where you practice. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I opened up Beyond Health, my original clinic, in 2014. I came from the hospitalist world. I mean, I was worked my ass off, but learned so much as a hospitalist. But I've worked in the ER as a nurse practitioner. But it was actually, I have to give credit to my ex-husband, who we get along. But he is an ER physician, and he was doing more and more medical direction contracts. And so we were getting killed from taxes. And I was like, we better open up a clinic, dude. This just isn't working. And, so like I said, I really have to give him a lot of the credit because I don't think I would have ever have stepped out on my own. And so we opened up just a traditional kind of primary care. We already had one of our medical directions we had were the Albuquerque Police Department. We had a couple of other area police department contracts. And so we already had a good basis of first responders. And so those were our original patients, and to this day still are my original patients. And so, 2017 it became, we were renting a little 1,200 square foot space. I think we had 3 exam rooms, and it just became very clear to me, either we were gonna have to get bigger or we were gonna have to close the doors, just to make insurance work. And then so I went on this mad research endeavor of, direct primary care at the time it was called is so I joined there's a coalition up in Montana and, I just got really involved making sure and then so I kind of proposed it to my ex. I'm like, "Look, this is what we need to do. Give me 6 months. I promise you I'll make it work." And it was also, looking back, there was a lot of growing pains and a lot of I'll never forget because I just sent out letters to our current patients, just saying, and at the time, especially in Albuquerque, New Mexico, this was a new concept. Like people are like, "What? You're gonna make us pay money to come see you?" And but I think I always say with insurance, not only does it tell the patient what they're worth, it tells the provider what we're worth. And that's kind of how I proposed it to the patients. Like you have a choice. And then I was already starting to dabble into the hormones. I don't think I was doing peptides yet, but I mean, and to be honest, like I never really fit as a hospitalist. It would always drive me crazy that I would discharge a patient sicker than they were when they came to me because I knew what I was doing to their gut. And again, I'm not anti-Western medicine. It is needed at the appropriate time, but then going back to true health, that's where I was fighting it because I knew I was making people sicker. And then I was going through my own personal things. I was, a runner in college, ran marathons every month. I mean, just very hard on my body. And it was actually a surgeon at Stedman in Vail, Colorado that I didn't go, I just had my hip surgery. I think I was like 31 or so at the time. And I didn't want to go down the prescription route of like anti-inflammatories. And he literally, Dr. Philippon, he's like, Kristi's like, read this article on testosterone. It's something about an anti-inflammatory. So I was like, okay. So I read it. And I was like, well, this makes sense to me. And so found a compounding pharmacist in Albuquerque that made me some creams. And I mean, really, that's what started piquing my interest when I was still very much in that Western medicine model as a hospitalist. And then opening up at the clinic and then, looking at having to transition it out of, the typical insurance-based practice moving forward to 2018. It was a huge I look back, I'm so glad I didn't know what I know now because I would have probably never have done it. Because once you opt out of insurance, especially Medicaid, Medicare, as a provider with our MPI numbers, you can't reapply for insurance for 5 years. So I was gonna have to be willing to go back to just being a staff nurse, which and I was, and that's what I told my ex-husband is like, "Look, worst case scenario, it fails, I go be a nurse. My pride can handle that. I can do it." But like I said, it was profitable within 4 months. And it's to this day, like I said, I have I have different memberships in my practice now, and I truly have a legacy membership, and it's the ones that signed up with me from the beginning. And I mean, their prices are locked in. Most of the time, they don't even pay for stuff, which is fine. Again, because they believed in me before I believed in myself, and I'll never forget that. And then as it's grown, as I got, more comfortable in the hormones, supplements, and then have really built, I've had some tremendous mentors in the cellular longevity space as far as building my knowledge. Like I was at a conference yesterday for a few days and it blows my mind my connections I've been able to make that I just never thought I never think of myself in that league, but yet I have them as partners and associations and contacts.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing time.
Mhm.
It feels like it's been building up to this point, and now it's really starting to kind of slingshot forward into the next dimension. There's just so much advancement and understanding, and there are lots of people doing lots of different things, lots of places to go to get information. That's for sure.
Well, and I think, to me, that's what, when you get down to what Beyond Health that's the name of my clinic. It's about creating life change, but take it that next step forward. It's really about a life of health, to live health, which I know that sounds kind of simple, but yet it really isn't simple, but yet we can make it simple. But like that is when I have a patient that comes to me or a patient that's been with me for many years, how do I help this patient live health? Because, I mean, we can have all the money in the bank, but if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
Amen.
And, I think creating life change, I mean, we have some, and it doesn't, I think people want to make it all complicated, but I mean, like you were saying, I mean, exercise is by far your biggest longevity tool. Are there some amazing, cool things you can do with peptides, hormones, ozone, I mean, absolutely. Like you name it, you can do it. But if you're not doing those basics of exercise, using food as medicine, and sleep, you're kind of wasting your money, man. And I mean, I have a very simple approach, and like I don't have one appointment that we don't talk about how's your food, how's your exercise, and then I've been blessed to really get some phenomenal health coaches on my side, or trainers that are really coaches, not just you think of a trainer, but like truly coaches. And then some nutritionists that, I can, one good thing with, COVID is businesses like exploded. Cause I think the average American kind of understood. And again, I'm not it's not that I'm anti-Western medicine. Do I prescribe antibiotics ever? Absolutely. Do I prescribe, blood pressure medicines when needed? Absolutely. My ex-husband, he's had leukemia 3 times. He wouldn't be alive today if he didn't have, modern medicine, because he truly needed chemo at certain parts of his phases. But yet we're always working on that aspect of creating life change for a patient and helping him live health. I always tell people I can't stop aging, but I can help you age to a younger self. And again, it's fun. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's fun to do those tests. Like, I think especially for, high performers, type A's, yeah, it's kind of a challenge for ourselves. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, what do you want to do? You just want to live health. And I don't want to live until I'm 100 if I don't have health.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like the worst time of your life are those last years. If you're not in, like my dream is like, hey, I want to be doing something and just drop over. 100% agree with you on that. And I think for the longest time, we got this sort of healthcare or health insurance provided by our employer, connected to a payer. Back then, they didn't own all the PBMs, but you're kind of triangulated. You're not looking at health the same way. It's like I have to go to the doctor. We were doing things, we were working out, we're doing all these types of things, but I think there's a wholesale shift in the way that people are looking at health, which is why you've been so successful doing what you do.
Yeah. Well, it's about health maintenance, not disease maintenance. I mean, truly, when you get down to it, it's that simple, but yet it can. I'm not gonna, do I have a few people in my brain right now of patients that when I get back home that are just like, okay, what am I missing the boat on this patient? But it always goes back. It's about health maintenance, where I think I was getting pulled into that disease maintenance because sadly some of these patients are in disease right now, which is okay. Like, and it's finding that, I look at every patient, I look at kind of a health paradigm in the sense of how close are you to wellness, not how close you are to sickness. And, every time when I see a patient on a repeat visit, it's like, okay, am I moving that dial? And if I'm not, what am I not conveying to this patient, or what resources have I not given this patient to understand, like, that's what we're trying to move towards. I think one of the most powerful things are electronic health record system. We take pictures of every patient when they come, new patients, and I intentionally keep their first picture up, because if I haven't changed that picture in 6 months, I'm doing something wrong. Like, that's my game towards myself.
Out of curiosity, do you keep a record of all of the pictures and
I don't ever change it because it's also impactful for the patient. Because then when they are like, "I never wanna look like this person ever again," I'm like, "You don't have to." They have their initial picture taken, and then, it's on their, demographics, and then we, we have a TV monitor in every room that has, like, I can pull up their EHR and, help look at labs, but front and center is their picture. And, to me, like, I mean, there's, again, there's always a couple of patients that come to mind. They're like, "I never wanna look like that person again." And they're like, "That's me?" I was like, "Yeah, that was you." And like I said, my gauge myself is if I haven't changed that picture in 6 months, then I'm not reaching that patient for whatever. And the other part is maybe they're not ready for me yet either. And with growth, I've understood that.
That's the interesting thing. I mean, you just nailed something that's so important, right? I'm not a doctor
Yeah.
or a provider of any sort, so I can't, completely relate. I can only imagine sort of the feeling of, hey, I'm in this 100% trying to help you, but you're not willing to help yourself. I find that in my clients a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I'm working with clients and I'm like, hey, I'm doing everything and don't you see it? And you could say it to them over and over. I had a call with somebody this morning and like, this is your problem. Do you see? It's right here, man. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's whatever they can do to not, if I don't know what it is, I just don't want to look at that one problem.
Yeah.
It is tough. So it must be hard sometimes when you're dealing with people and you're saying, hey, if you would only just do the following, you would get such a better result. They've got to be in it with you.
Oh, 100%. No, 100%. It doesn't bother me as much as it used to because, I used to kind of beat myself up over it. But if they're not in it, they're not in it, and that's okay. Because something will finally click with that patient. Sadly, maybe it's an event in their life that, okay, I'm sick and I acknowledge that I'm sick. Or maybe it's just them being, sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? But there's always, if I can just keep that patient somewhat connected to our clinic, there'll be a pain point that they finally are like, okay, I get it. And then also, I'm very transparent with my patients of I walk the walk too. I mean, I didn't talk it in the sense of my goal for every patient of mine is that they see health in myself. That, I'm not just here trying to make money. Granted, I have a fabulous life because of the work, and the patients we have and what I've created, but it's never been about the financial gains, and I think it's never been of me. I always knew it was something bigger, and every day it is that, and it's those patients walking in that door every day.
Which is a perfect opportunity for us to go back
Mhm.
to how we normally start the show, which is your origin story.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I think we get a sense of who somebody is in their, in their early years, it informs why we wound up where we are today. And so if you could share, like, what was it like? Take us back.
Like childhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So I came from a very simple background. I grew up on a farm and ranch. I was driving a tractor before I could drive a car. And then, back then, I mean, like, my parents have been extremely blessed of what they've been given, but I mean, like, my parents didn't go to a lot of our sports stuff, just because they were working or, dad was in the fields or whatever it might be. But I think it was that, that work ethic. And then I was a little bit of an ornery kid, I'm not gonna lie. And, someone told me I couldn't do it, I'd be like, "Screw you, I'll do it." But sometimes, looking back to my demise, like, maybe went a little bit over the board as far as how far I pushed myself. And because I was always an athlete, I remember my dad one day, he was dropping me off to go to a track meet. And he's like, "You're not gonna run in college." I'm like, "Yeah, I am, Dad." Like, "Screw you. Yes, I am." And so everybody always asks, like, what was, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I just ran angry. And I could turn that into energy and to run. And then, just like had a fabulous time in college. Never ran professionally. I mean, I understood my role was the grades, like, that was back in the NCAA where, you had to keep that average grade point. And that was, and I understood that. Like, they needed me. One of my best friends, her daughter is now at the Olympic Training Center. I mean, she's, I don't think Cheryl ever ran Olympic, but I mean, she ran professionally, but I also, like, she was just as important to the team as I was. I was just from a grade perspective. And so, there was that. I was worked as a nurse for, I don't know, a couple of years.
In between, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
From college, what made you decide to go into nursing school? What was the
Yeah. So, it was actually my mother. So I was pre-med, but long distance runners, we all have eating disorders. Like that, especially back then, like you had a practice weight you had to have, and then you had a run weight, at an event, weight. And I mean, I graduated a class of 18 people. And then I went to Texas Tech. Like, it was like totally, again, talking about a fish out of water, like, as like, and like, I'll never forget walking in and I heard all these girls vomiting. And I was just like, what the hell's going on, dude? And Cheryl, who's still my best friend, she's actually now a nurse in Houston. She's like, well, Kristi, we're fixing to get weighed. And I'm like, what? Again, just like coming from, like, we're going to weigh, okay. And, just like, well, like, what do you weigh right now? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know it was important. She's like, like, I look back, like, we were two. I mean, she came from Houston. I mean, and so, she grew up, in that dynamic there. And she's like, follow me. I'm like, okay. And, just so going back, it became too much for me. And from a mental perspective, and then because, like, again, I was trying to keep the 4 point, but yet I still had the same practice schedule. And then my mom, she's like, Kristi, you need to just go to nursing school. I was like, Mom, I'm not gonna become a damn nurse. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And literally she said, Kristi, you're not gonna make it through if you continue this path. And she's like, go to nursing school. I was like, fine, Mom. So I went, applied for nursing school. Of course, I got in. And that's really when I quit running competitive, because then you're thrown into the health science center. And, there was definitely a fork in my road. But that's when I started having a phenomenal time with the club sports. Like, I mean, I would travel all over for triathlons. And, I mean, I didn't miss that competitive because I still had it. Like, it's not like one day I was running, the next day I wasn't. And, so anyways, I did that. And then I always knew I was going to be some type of provider. I just didn't know what. And then, so I stayed a nurse for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before I went to nurse practitioner school in Albuquerque, and then been there ever since. I mean, worked other areas as like we worked up in Farmington, which is northern New Mexico. Learned so much there. And then came back to Albuquerque, and I've been in the Albuquerque area since then.
Hearing sort of, hey, you grew up in a family where, hey, you're ranching and the whole family's dependent upon
We were the workers. Yeah.
It's a team.
It's a team.
And then you move into a team oriented, I don't know if you're sprinting or you're
long distance.
Okay, well, long distance, but still part of a team. My son was a sprinter and a 4x100 guy. So, so you're part of a team, and then you move, and I think it sort of shows where you are today. Why are you so intense? Because when I first met you, I was like, man, this lady is intense. She's making some stuff happen.
Yeah.
You can always tell somebody who wants to get real results for patients, who really cares. There's a sort of a passion intensity to them. Some, not necessarily in like a way like that's distinguishable in like generalized character traits, but there's underlying, if you've been around healthcare as long as I have, you can see it. And I could see that right away in you. You're like, hey, is this gonna take my patient to the next level? And I think your background is super interesting. So here you are, we already talked about creating this clinic. Let's talk about where people are today, one of the things I love that you said was that there isn't a visit that you have with a patient where you're not talking about exercise and diet.
Mhm.
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make any of this other stuff work without, I mean, and obviously sleep.
Yeah. No, that is such an overlooked aspect of health. And again, but to live health. You can't live health without exercise. You can't live health without food. Like, I mean, bottom line. I mean, period. I don't care how much money and the access you have to all these cellular docs that are freaking brilliant. Um, but at the end of the day, like, if you don't have that, it's a poor investment. It's really like, kind of going to step C and D before taking care of A and B. It's like you're gonna walk away frustrated, and that's my thing with the patients that I'm just like having. They're like, "Oh, can what's the latest peptide?" Or "Can I do this and this?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we can do it, but I want results." And like, are you willing to make these changes? And then, like I said, I've developed some phenomenal, you know, connections, and like, and I have a couple of trainers, coaches in Albuquerque that, I mean, I don't just work with one gym. I mean, I'm like, "Okay, where do you live at?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is the gym to go to." Or, "Are you the type that needs a trainer to go to your house?" Great, I have some private you know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of find where they need, and then, I think one of the things that even I myself didn't understand the impact of a good health coach, but I've implemented. I have 2 that I work with, but those have been game changers for patients because, like, I have these 2 attorneys that are in my mind, and, I mean, obviously very successful, but they had no concept, just those how important that those daily habits are, right? Of just, like, even if it's in between a court case, that's the issue with so many attorneys is, like, they live by far one of the most sedentary lifestyles because they just sit there and they're down reading all day long. Um, and, even if it's just, going for a walk around their building or doing this, I mean, most attorneys' offices are, in a building with several flights of stairs. But I can tell you, like, a health coach, when I really started implementing that, and she just, figures out how best way to communicate with them, text message, phone call, whatever it might be, email, but, like, she just is that daily point of contact of, "Okay, did you hit your protein yesterday?" Or, "How much did you walk yesterday? How was your sleep?" That's been huge, and so, I mean, not to say we don't get success with the patient, and I'm not saying that from an arrogant perspective, but it's because I figure out, okay, where's their pain point? Like, is it a financial burden? Which most of ours, that's not, but it's usually a time, or their life is so freaking chaotic. I mean, hell, I couldn't be healthy either. I mean, it's just like, it always blows my mind how people kind of live life. And I'm like, "And you wondering why you don't have health?" Do you not, like, to me, it's so obvious. Um, but and so I guess it's just where we have gotten good at Beyond Health is you walk in and you see health. I mean, like, I mean, I'm not saying that all my employees are fit and fabulous, but they're all healthy or they're actually living it. Like my MAs, I mean, yes, they're still a little overweight, but like, they have health in their skin. Like, you can tell that they're starting to do the steps too. And patients recognize that. And then, it's just that sense of excellence, and my staff, they wanna create life change not only for themselves, but for the patients themselves, and so, I mean, we truly are all invested as a team with one very common mission and vision.
Interesting. So your leadership has led your organization through a pathway to peak performance that continues to evolve, is the sense that I'm getting. You find yourself getting into a flow state around that, like when everything just sort of starts to come together, even when there are challenges, like,
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely fed off of that. I was at the World Link conference this past few days in Coronado Island, and, there's a couple of lectures I'm gonna make my team listen to as a team. I mean, because I was like, okay, guys, like, just so they understand, like, I think I might have a clear message, but it's from my perspective, and sometimes it's just like you. I mean, sometimes it's better not to hear from the boss. Um, and, like, this is why those points I'm trying to capture, I'm excited for them to hear. And he was a nutritionist scientist out of Baylor. I forget his name, but, it just is like, man, why didn't I think of that slide or that diagram to show to my staff? Because, it made sense. Not that I hadn't told them that information.
But it was just presented.
It was presented totally different. I'm like, damn it, that's a really good idea. Like, why didn't I think? I mean, it was just a very simple graph of basically what he was talking about of, going back to, I always preach, muscle is our biggest wealth. I mean, there's a reason why muscle loss is a hallmark of aging. If you want to stop aging, that is the first thing you have to stop is muscle loss. Like that point, because you don't have health. And that's why exercise is your biggest longevity hack. When you start seeing that muscle loss, that glucose has to go somewhere because it's coming out of the muscle. And it was like I said, it was just freaking squares and circles. And I'm like, man, why did I? But I've already shown it to my staff. I'll be back to work tomorrow. We're going to go through that. Like, do you see this? And even, I don't just educate my nurses, my MAs. I mean, my front desk. I mean, hell, they understand peptides just as much as I do.
They have to.
They have to because patients are coming and, like, to be honest, my front office probably understands the supplements even better than some of my back office.
Well, that's where those supplements live, right?
Correct.
Also, it's so important. One of the things I love about you is that you're really lab focused. Yeah, you got to be looking at the labs to understand where, hey, at certain times you're going to be taking stuff, other times you're not.
Yeah.
But that notion, it's interesting. Your competitive nature just showed up in that. Damn it, why didn't I?
Well, like, damn.
Yeah,
like that was even that hard of a slide. Why couldn't I?
But that's what that's what's cool about you is that you're actually like really into it and you really want to produce the best results. And that's, I always think it's like the people that want the best results for patients get the best results for patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know some people, we have some people in common. There's one guy, we talked about him right when we first started, mad respect for the guy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Brilliant.
Like, yeah, he's a phenomenal, like a brain. Mm-hmm. And I think that, there are lots of people that have lots of great ideas. He's one of them, pioneer.
Oh,
right.
Without a doubt. I mean, my practice is where it is today. A part of that is because of him.
Yeah.
And more so from my knowledge, not necessarily from a business perspective, but just, what I've learned from that organization.
He really, obviously have been very close with him. We got to just go ahead and give him, I mean, we're talking about him. We might as well give him credit. William Seeds. Yeah.
He's a phenomenal man.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to him. And I always tell him at all of his masterminds how grateful I am. And, I don't know how long I've been with him.
Long time.
I mean, and so, not that I know him but I know him. I've been blessed to be a part of some of his ground rounds. And like, to me, that was what was so life-changing. It was a small group. It was like, Dr. Yurth, Dr. Carl Page, Dr. Cynthia Keller, and then there was just 4 other people. And I was like, at first I was like, holy shit, I'm going to completely, because we had to present a case.
Yeah.
I think I had a total of 4 cases. And I'm not going to I was a little intimidated at first. But it was just, I think that is another moment in my career of just how we sat and just how they saw how we needed to work through these patients and how okay, I think that's also when I had changed my approach a bit in the sense of they don't look at they do look at the whole person, but they don't in the sense of, they look at, the mitochondria. They're literally going system by system of and then it finally gets you, okay, this is why this person is at this state. And then then you just reverse it backwards to get to health, right? I think that was, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity because I changed that day. On those just hard cases that you would just get bogged down on, I would just, again, like, I can just hear Dr. Seeds or, Dr. Yurtha, like, okay, where is the breakdown occurring? Which, and then, I always tell people, medicine is pretty damn easy. It's all about inflammation. It's just figuring out where it's coming from, what system it's coming. But really, it's, of course, if you were talking to Dr. Yurtha, she'd say it's all about the mitochondria. And, everybody, if you talk to Dr. Keller, it's all about the gut. And then, but, to me, how I see it, it's just inflammation. I don't, how my mind works, it's not that I don't care but at the end of the day, it's like, where do I need to decrease this inflammation first? Is it, again, is it a brain? Is it a heart? Where is it? Or is it just pure on gut inflammation?
Well, I can tell you, it's interesting as you go through different like diets and, kind of like figuring out what works for you as an individual. I really, really have just come to this end of one true belief. Like there isn't one thing
No.
that works for everybody.
No, absolutely not.
You got to get like,
Other than exercise.
true.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have the gym. I'd be insane.
Oh, I would too.
Yeah. There's no way I have to have it. And I'm a typical overtrainer, right? I love that. That's kind of, but as I've gotten older, that's also probably just not going to work much longer. So it's now time to really start to focus in on.
Well, I think it's teaching people, because, and I'm not saying I'm not still there, but I have intentionally worked on it. If I didn't work out 6 days a week, like, it was kind of messing with my mind. And I think part of it goes back to college, eating disorder. I understand where that's coming from, but I've also put into practice that the recovery is a workout too. Like if you do your recovery day appropriately, it is a workout too.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, because not enough people talk about recovery and everybody has a different version of it. Some people, let's go from the person that thinks like, hey, I can just spend the day watching football on the couch, to the person who's like, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk 5 miles and or whatever. What's your version of a recovery day?
I think it's dependent on the person. The average American, not an elite athlete, there needs to be purpose in it. I don't think sitting on the couch is the right type of recovery day. I do believe in feeding the mind, body, and soul. Truly during a recovery day, letting your mind rest. And if that's going for a very slow walk, or if that's getting into a Zen spot. I'm not a good meditator. I suck at it. I just can't do it. Or to the point of hydrating with warm water and lemon. I mean, I think everybody's recovery is different, but it needs to be intentional. It's not, oh, it's my recovery day. That means I can eat a bag of potato chips and watch football all day. Like, to me, that's not purposeful recovery. Because if anything, you're adding more inflammation that way.
Oh,
yeah. Someone like, for instance, like, okay, stretch for 10 minutes or sit there with a calm mind for 10 minutes, whatever that might, because I mean, like I said, I'm not a yoga person. It's not that I don't see the value in yoga. It just drives me crazy because I feel like I still have to go work out. So like my more purposeful is like, I go for a slow walk. I mean, I'm a child of God. So like, one thing that helps me recovery is, I'll listen to a sermon when I'm walking or, maybe some, spiritual music or, something on those lines. Like to me, that's true recovery for me. But it's not like, to me, being a gamer all day. Like that's not recovery because that's not resting your mind. That's not giving you a reset. Maybe it's reading a little bit longer of a book that day or, whatever brings you that from a parasympathetic, you're down regulating. Whatever. I mean, and everybody has that. And usually if you'll dig, they'll say, oh yeah, I do it that when I do this, X, Y, and Z. or when I just sit in a room of peace, or, you know, I can go, yard working, or, again, I always, coming from a farm, I enjoy being outside. And so, my other thing is just floating around in our pool is a good recovery day for me too.
Sometimes I think for me, I have to just let off the brain. My hardest part is to not play a bunch of chess.
Yeah, you're a chess player.
Oh yeah, but I play online.
Oh, you play online.
I play people all over the world,
Yeah.
and competitive, and so it's really like one of those things where I'm, you got to think. But
Yeah.
my competitive nature is that I probably can't let off anyway, so
Yeah.
I channel it there, so I don't have to think about all the businesses,
Yeah.
different things that I'm doing with regards.
To me, I always like, whatever your recovery is, as long as you can honestly say the next day you wake up with the, like, kind of a new energy, a new then that's recovery for you. Like, so if that's plain, then fine. It would exhaust my brain, because then I'm the type of person, I read 5 books at once. Like, I have books throughout my house, and it drives my husband insane. He's always like, "Are you gonna finish a book?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'll and what's funny is I usually finish them all about the same time. But, I mean, literally, I have a
But you,
book on the bed, I have a book in the living room, everywhere, wherever I'm at, I have a book. I'm not saying it's healthy, but that's what I do.
though it's kind of stimulating the brain in all
Yeah.
different ways and moving it around, which I think is phenomenal. Mine is maybe a little one dimensional, though. I mean, I'm working on all sorts of stuff all the time. But yeah, I think the whole spiritual side of it is super important.
Mhm.
People get it in different ways. I think you and I get it in the same place, which has worked well for me.
Yeah.
I wonder how some people do it without it.
Whenever I got my divorce, I bought a piece of land, and I just lived in an apartment, because the money that I got from the house, I just put it in this land. And because I always knew, like, I was tired of renting this place. It was in a strip mall. I knew I wanted to own my own building. I just financially couldn't do it at the time. I mean, I couldn't even apply for a loan. I don't think they would have looked at me like, "Yeah, you're crazy." But I can always say, like, I went from 1,200 square feet to a 5,000 square foot building, overnight. Like, I literally, in true fashion of what I'm a leaper. I kinda jump, and I'm like, "This water's a little bit deeper than I thought." Um, but I worked until noon, saw my last patient, had the movers come in. And, my staff helped with me for a few hours, and then they went home. I didn't sleep that whole weekend, because, I remember getting the room set up, putting the needles in everything, because I had a patient at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning. Like, I didn't close. Like, I didn't have an option. And to this day, I still laugh, because, like, our otoscope and stuff in certain rooms that I hung are not hung straight. One of these days, I'm gonna get it fixed straight, because it drives me crazy.
Screwed up.
Yeah, but then it also reminds me of, like, I did that. Um, but that I always knew that building, like, after, because it was just a few miles from my old clinic. Like, I would always go and pray around the construction site. And because I always knew, like, and I guess that's been my attitude, is this is not of me. Um, and I'm very clear in that, like, what I've created is I have not created. It's never been mine. And I think in that, I take a tremendous amount of responsibility for that, because I have been given such a gift. To be here with you today. And just the people I've met in my life, as far as, Dr. Seeds. Like that. How many people would love to sit down and have a conversation with him and just pick his brain, because he is brilliant. And the other one is, Dr. Yurth, like that woman. There's not a day in my clinic life that I don't think, okay, that, something that she has taught me, um, influenced my decision for that patient. Or, Dr. Keller, Dr. Abit, like all, like those, like when I say those are my mentors, those are my mentors. And I always make sure that they know it. Not that I don't know if they care, but to me,
Oh, they care. You know what? I guarantee you they care.
yeah.
They wouldn't be doing education if they didn't. And I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I just feel like, you know what, you're a super humble person, and that's clearly directed by the things that you said previously before. And I'm sure that, you know, had a great friend in recently, Blair LaCourte, who basically just said, you know, we all want to be loved. We all want to be recognized and loved at our core. I think those people all want it, and that's why they do what they do. And they also want to make a difference like you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a bunch of really phenomenal people in the space that are doing it, that it's like, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah.
All right. So I always ask when I always ask when I've got somebody with your depth of experience, what's the one peptide that no one's really talking about, but they should be?
Huh. Well, you have a lot of people talking about a lot of peptides.
Yeah.
In what area? Like,
You pick.
you pick.
Anything that comes to mind. Anything that comes to mind. I always say, like, it could be any of the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't maybe have to be the thing that
You know, I
stuck
think
about.
so I always say, like, if I myself had to pick one peptide to be stranded on a desert island, it'd be BPC 157. But where I'm hoping as a society, and I know, like, again, like my core group, the people I just mentioned, these GLP-1s, they're a phenomenal medication. But it's just, I absolutely hate as a society, like when I hear a news person, and again, it's just because they don't know. And so I also have to give them that sense of grace. But like people that have a voice that people listen to, and they talk about just the freaking weight loss. I don't even use it for weight loss. And again, I'm not saying weight loss is not needed. It is needed in certain people, but it's usually not the weight that's needed. It's the composition. And going back to my thing of inflammation, that is what's needed. So I think if I could, what that one peptide, I wish as more of a collective group, we could say, look, stop media, stop big pharma. I mean, just like they intentionally not allowing lower doses to be covered, which, when I look back, like the few patients, yes, we're a cash-based clinic, but I do have, if I have a patient that comes in and I know Zepbound can get covered because it's obvious their BMI, I'm like, here, let me give you a prescription. But I can never get those lower doses because, I have hundreds of people on GLP-1s. I have very few people on high doses because it's not needed. But yet big pharma, they push the bigger doses because that's your higher from your prescription monitor managers. You said it earlier,
PBM.
Yeah. They get a higher reimbursement from those bigger doses. So they're the ones that are causing the negative side effects. Because, and it happens. Thankfully, it hasn't happened to a patient of ours, but, people will get bowel obstructions. People will get, their gut will get paralyzed. There is, it does need to be, but it's only at high doses. Like, and that's the power of these lower doses, and like why I'm so strict of, like, if you're on a GLP-1 with us, you are getting an M-body every time you come in for a refill. You're getting an assessment by the nurse to make sure you're eating enough protein, that you're not losing more muscle than you are fat. We're looking at labs to make sure that we're truly changing that insulin resistance picture, right? Because people think insulin resistance is just a fat person. It's not. It's a skinny person. But I think I know I'm going to circling back around, but like the neurovascular disease, what these GLP-1s does from a cancer cascade, what it does just, from a muscle perspective, like everybody thinks GLP-1s cause muscle loss. No, it's a lack of protein, and it's too high of doses. Of course, anytime you lose weight, you're going to lose a little bit of muscle mass initially, but it's catching it. That's inevitable. I don't care if it's a keto diet, whatever freaking diet you're on, the carnivore, whatever, you're going to lose muscle mass initially, but it's making sure that muscle loss is not occurring. and I can tell you, like, again, like my true cellular longevity, we are trying to change that narrative of like, look, guys, let's not screw up a good thing of how impactful these medications. I mean, heck, it's getting approved for Alzheimer's and dementia. And like I was with New BioAge at it was a long hauler COVID conference that we had some speakers, this one scientist from Italy, like if we understood, if just the general public, everybody, for the most part, people think COVID's over. It's not over, and it's never going to be over. Like, and especially the downstream effects, and going back, these spike proteins are absolutely raising havoc on the reproductive symptom or systems, the brain. I mean, there's not a system that isn't affected by these spike proteins. One of the most powerful tools we have to reduce that spike protein, that inflammation, is a low-dose GLP-1. And that's what I wished we were talking about. Get over the weight loss craze of it. And I think, like I said, I think most clinics like us, like, I don't even want the weight loss people, to be honest, because they don't want health. They just want the skill to change. They want, they want to be skinny, fat. Great. Go down to your med spa. And to be honest, those people kind of weed themselves out of our practice. And not because we're rude, but it's just, they don't fit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get them. They don't get me. And I'm like, go down the road, because the last thing I want to do is create a patient that's frustrated. Because the patient's frustrated, then I'm frustrated. My staff is frustrated. Like, it's just best to acknowledge we're not jiving, go other way.
The fit's got to be right. And if it's not, then you got to get out.
Yeah.
And do something else. I mean, I think also, again, I'm not on the provider side, so I can't imagine, although I have, lots of clients who are.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like to be you to have to discharge a patient. But, there are times when I think it's appropriate and people are looking for the wrong thing for what you're providing.
Well, and again, when I have to discharge a patient, they want to leap too. Because honestly, like if I have that, okay, this is not working, they'll either straighten their ass up or they'll say, you know what, you're right. And it's good. But I always give them that opportunity. Like, look, you don't have to live this way. It's ultimately your decision. But if you continue with this, you're just going to get more and more frustrated. And that's the last thing I want.
So let's talk about in-body, and you're getting a DEXA now.
Yeah.
Okay, so in-body, fairly effective.
It's
yeah. It gives you all the stuff you need. DEXA kind of takes it to the next level. There's been some debate about bod versus DEXA. I think I don't know, I've always been a DEXA guy.
I'm a DEXA. I mean, so this is my thing, and it's the honest truth. I don't do anything that I haven't done myself.
Yeah, me too.
Like, there is not a peptide, there's not a supplement. I will tell people this is the reaction I had, or, whatever it might be. I will do, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, I'll do high doses just so that I can see, like, do I really get a side effect or not, and how much I can push it. And then my husband's also my guinea pig. But no, the thing is with the in-body.
Is he your second husband?
My second husband.
Remind me not to be your third.
Okay, yeah, no, you're not my third. No, I'm done. I never thought I was going to get married the second time. No, the thing with the in-body, and like I said, I've done the experiment myself. I have done it where I have done it right when I walk into the clinic, just right after working out. I've done it walking in first thing without working out. I've done it in the afternoon after working a long day when I know I'm dehydrated, and it's just because of how that in-body, the electrodes with that water transport. Like, I mean, I've changed my in-body that way, and I've made it look really, really damn good. And I've made it look like, hey, Kristi, you know what I'm saying? Just like from that curve as far as that muscle to fat ratio. But it's from the average person look at it, I was like, oh, that's kind of bad. But what's important to really look at is your intercellular, extracellular water. Like, that really tells you where you're at. The thing with the DEXA is you don't have that manipulation. But like I said, right now, like I have the in-body 970, so it's the best in-body has. As a new patient, you get an in-body, you get labs done before you even meet me. But I'm really excited about the DEXA. I actually went to so when I was at the New BioAge conference a few weeks ago in West Palm, I actually went to Leonard and Fox, their longevity clinic, and did all their longevity assessment tools. And like I did the PNOE, the metabolic breath analysis. There's a form of those force plates. I forget the name, but anyway, but like my biggest I was like, that's the DEXA I'm gonna get because I mean, what I think one of the biggest things that I loved about the DEXA, we all know if we can keep less kind of that target marker of visceral fat we're trying to stay under is less than a pound of visceral fat. Like that, like if a person has that, they're okay. Now, it's those people that get, which 3, 4, 5 pounds doesn't sound much, but around your organs, that is a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the DEXA is it gives, like, I know exactly where I have, like, if you were I would know exactly where I had you at. Versus the in-body, yes, it gives you that visual, but it doesn't give you, and there's ways, like, you can get a pretty average assessment of how much pounds a person has, but it's not an exact. And again, like, you can manipulate that with their hydration. And that's like we're so strict with our people doing the in-bodies is we really encourage them. Always come in to the best of your ability the same time, every time you do an in-body, and make sure either you worked out or you didn't work, do it consistently so that I am actually measuring accuracy as far as it's not a different picture. And then I'll tell people, like, I mean, I'll show them my results. Like, look, I manipulated my in-body by just doing it this many different ways.
I do the same thing with the DEXA.
Yeah. DEXA is not as much because it does measure the water weight, but it's not, how I understand it and how it is, it's not moving that currency of that water as much like the in-body is because of those electrodes you're standing on and holding.
Yeah. DEXA is the all revealing.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I'm really excited. Like guys, like I'm in the process of getting it purchased now. Hopefully I have a room, by for sure January, I'll have it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that really, to have that in the clinic with the doc rather than trying to look at, so it's just huge.
Huge.
Yeah, it's a gigantic, that PNOE thing is really interesting.
It's good. It's just such a finicky machine. Like, and what I love about VO2 max is, we think of it as, oh, just athletes need to know VO2. That's not true. Like, you need to know, are you burning more fat or are you burning more carbohydrates? Like it's invalid, especially with my long hauler COVIDs that I can't, I'm just like, okay, why? Like it gives you the answer of like, okay, this is why I can't get this patient flipped. Because, they're still burning more carbs than they are fats or, wherever that line is crossing. But I just, right now, there's a place in Albuquerque, if I really want someone to do a VO2 max, I'm just going to use them. It's just a logistics for me. In the sense of it's just another person I have to run a machine time. I'm not going to say I'm never going to get a VO2 max in the clinic, but right now I'm focusing on DEXA and then really looking at like ozone. That's my next, because especially with the EBU, because that scientist, so there's actually a filter that can remove the spike protein through time. Like it's not a one and done, but with Dr. Dunn and Dr. Fear, they practice out of on the East Coast. They actually are developing a filter that, they can prove through time they're able to remove those spike proteins.
Yeah, I mean, that whole plasma, the EBU or EBO2 with then also like this notion of plasma exchange and really just, I mean, super expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably really so, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of places here that are doing it. No,
you'd be surprised. I think San Francisco it's not as, I mean, I think we're still in the Wild West of all of this. Like we're a long way off from deciding what color to paint the library, and it's a little bit of there's some cowboy stuff out there that I see all the time. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's why, being around people like some of the people that we mentioned before, being around people like yourself who really, I mean, you really know what you're doing, so invaluable. For me, it's so great because I can pick up the phone and I can call. I can be like, "Hey, Kristi, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think of this?" Where I think a lot of people are lost. They don't know.
Well, it's just like we were talking at how grateful that I was able to enter the space so many years ago. Basically, like I said, my true longevity space started in 2018, although I would say there was absolutely pieces of the clinic that were longevity. But I would say if I had to pick a date of like, okay, when did you really switch from kind of traditional, it was 2018. And I think that because of the insurance, and to be honest, I financially had to make it work. I mean, here I was newly divorced, and I had to make it work. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a fallback plan.
One of the best places to be.
Yeah, like I mean, I had to make it work. But I would also say I would hate to be a new provider entering this space right now because there is so much noise. And again, I'm not saying I'm not anti-influencers and biohackers. There's some phenomenal ones out there, but there's a lot of shit out there too. And, there's not a day that I'm not grateful for having such a solid mentor group around me because we know what truth is. Not to say we don't get pulled every once in a while to certain things, but just kind of like what Dr. Seed said, the cell never lies. I mean, the pathway doesn't change. I mean, and it's true. I mean, and it's like, and I even will hear that phrase in my brain of like, when I'm like, okay, is this really real? Is this really going to work? And I can just, hear his voice. I can hear Dr. Ure, then like, go back to the pathway. It never lies. Like, never lies. And so, yeah, like I said, because it's just like this last conference I was at in Coronado Island with WorldLink. I mean, there's a lot of people. It's so scary for providers that are still in that traditional world, but yet they're being exposed to people like us, and they know there's a better way, there's an easier way. And like there was this one lady, they were wanting me to kind of help from a business perspective, talk to, people that are trying to make that transition. And I just said, I kind of gave him the books I read, but I says, at the end of the day, you can't be afraid. Like, there was a lot of points in my life, and still this day, that if I let fear stop me, I wouldn't have ever done it. And, I says, like, that's the big, like, there is going to be uncertainty. How lucky are you? There's more and more people like me that's in this space. Not to say we've paved the way for them, but that, we're not considered wackadoodles like we used to be considered, Like, I mean, I remember first in Albuquerque, I mean, I was called every wackadoodle. I'm like, whatever, you're right, I am a wackadoodle, don't care. Like, call me whatever you want, I am a little crazy, go for it. I mean, even my ex-husband, he's like, "Kristi, are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna be fine, Justin. Like, I got this. Don't stay an ER VA doctor. You stay there. You just go there." But I was just like, and that's what I was trying to encourage, like this group at this last conference of like, take advantage of like, there has truly been some pioneers that have paved the way even for me, but there's a lot more people like me. So take advantage of it. And then be an avid learner. I mean, that's my other thing is like, I mean, there's not a day that I don't listen to a podcast or I don't read an article or a book. There's not a day that I don't look at something from a health perspective. And that there's not a cookbook, there's not a protocol. And I think that's another thing that's scary for these physicians, providers that are trying to get out of this Western model of, well, what's your protocol? I'm sorry, do our patients have something stamped on them? Like, we can't scan them yet. I'm sure at one point in time we'll be able to scan them, but we can't scan them yet. But like you can, and you just, again, like I always say, if you don't understand the cell, then go back to that. Like you have to have enough confidence that you're not going to hurt someone. And then just, know, like the cell never lies. You can't change that. And I don't know every cell pathway, but I just go back. I mean, I don't know how many times I've looked at their slides over and over because, for whatever, it just didn't catch me.
Well, I think it's like people see information, They go out, they live their lives, they remember that information, they go, oh no, so now I see how this applies here, here, and here. It's a process, right? It's you're going through it. I'm curious, so you went out, you were in West Palm, or Palm Beach, was
West Palm.
West Palm. And you're going through the latest conference with Leonard Pastrana and his partner Frank.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Brennan Ball.
Yes. Yeah.
Super cool dude.
Yeah, no, he is.
You're learning about all sorts of stuff from lots of different people.
Yeah.
You're going to places all over. And I think that's what's really interesting is it seems like now more than ever, I have to say that I'm impressed by how many people are putting things on. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like had a client that was at a hyperbaric thing this last week. They were at a stem cell thing before that with Muse stem cells and everything that's happening around that. As a stem cell banking guy,
Yeah.
I'm a little leery. Yeah, more on the, the Michael Longacre Ophir Klein side of it than I am on the let's just go push these things. But
You have to be careful.
who knows?
Like, I mean, we use exomes. The stem cells that, so many people don't think of, like, if I order any stem cells or anything, I always make sure I get the printout and that the donor was received before COVID started. So before 2019. Because the issue, and the bottom answer is, we don't know. But like, so say if you get a stem cell infusion and you get it either an IV or into your joint or, wherever it might be. But if that donor had COVID, we didn't know about it, and that spike protein interacts with you, you're actually causing more harm than good.
Interesting.
So my take-home message that I just made a decision is at this point in time, I will not order any donor that was past COVID. It had to be done before COVID, so 2019.
So those cells have to be in cryo for quite some time before.
Because then now the question is, okay, well, when are we going to eventually run out? But like right now, that was my take-home message because I use a handful of companies and and I've just learned those companies that can't give me clarity on, was this specimen tested for, I'm like, okay, I'm not using you. I think my big one is Chimera. And I don't mind using Dr. Duncan, I think, but there's some other ones I've just kind of quit using because they couldn't give me clarity there.
Well, it's the same thing on the peptide side of things, right? I mean, if you couldn't get a peptide, you didn't know it was GMP and third-party tested, you wouldn't give it to your patient.
But yet, how many patients? And then, and that's another thing that I bought peptides myself online? Absolutely. Like if I couldn't get a hold of something, but like there's a lab in Albuquerque that I'll have them test it. And the thing that I tell patients, well, they say it's 99% pure. Well, it probably is, but they're not checking for contaminants. That is where all these nanoplastics, like that is what's causing your issue right there. But anyways, it always blows my mind. I'll sometimes order something online for myself and I'll go get it tested. Sometimes it's completely clean and it's good. Sometimes it is just full of crap. And so, I obviously I can't sell that to patients, and nor would I ever. But, I think that's another thing that gets frustrating for clinics like ourselves is, we are sourcing this from FDA-approved compounding pharmacies. Like, going back to your point, it's the wild, wild west. Yes and no, because I can promise you, I have no problem showing people my peptides, where I'm buying it from, and proving their FDA standards. If people understood that Lilly, there's a reason why their manufacturing is in Ireland and Japan. Anyways, there's two. It's because they haven't been checked by the FDA in years. There's a reason why they don't have their manufacturing here in the United States versus an average compounding pharmacy will have the FDA come in 3 or 4 times a year. Versus there's been whistleblowers with pharmaceutical manufacturers that, not having a sterile environment. That's again, like, this is no. But, and I guess that's where, again, I'm like, for sure, go buy your stuff online. That's ultimately your choice, but don't come ask me. And, but it's always, I usually get those patients back because they're like, yeah, it worked really good one time and the next one didn't work at all. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I sent something that I got from a reputable source
yeah,
through a spectrometer.
yeah,
I never said anything. I agree with you 100%. And you just got to work with people who are really committed to the best and the quality and all those things. And then sometimes you look at them and you go, okay. I guess my statement about the wild, wild west is that there are a lot of people willing to do things that are really kind of questionable in some ways. And the peptide thing is like, you have these groups of people that are just like, oh, hey, just go get it from this particular. And it's like, you have no idea what you're doing.
yeah.
And that's a kind of a scary proposition.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, heck, I've been using peptides, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and I still learn. Like, I don't know it all, and I have every I've been with the International Peptide Society. I've been with A4M. SSRP, I have every freaking peptide certification there is. Like, I mean, literally, I've been through it. I mean, I originally started with Dr. O'Neill Smith, who was the original with Dr. Seeds, and I don't know everything about peptides. In fact, I know very little. Like, if you really look at it, I know very, like, 'cause there's so much out there that we just don't know, but I can promise you I have enough of a working foundation and I understand how the cell works, but, like, as far as the precise dosing, how it works best and how to cycle it, like, we're still learning that. Some patients need a cycle, some patients don't. Some patients only need to be on it for a month, and that's when, like, when I'm talking to new providers, like, if you think you're just gonna write this prescription and this patient's gonna get it auto shipped from, like, Leonard and Fox Pharmacy, whatever, that's not reality. Like, you have to have, because there is some patients that don't need to stay on CJC for a long period of time. There are some people like myself, like, that's one peptide, like, I am consistently 5 days on like, I don't cycle that one. But now I will cycle other stuff, but then there's some patients I do have to cycle to CJC. And that's where, like, I encourage, like, when I'm talking to new providers of, like, pick 2 or 3 peptides, get really good at them. Don't start marketing and, like, offering all these other peptides. Just get really good, 2 to 3 peptides. Understand, see the side effects, see the different responses, see the different dosing responses, and then add another one. But don't, just because the peptide floodgates are open, it doesn't mean you have to. Unless you want to practice that way. And that's how I always, it's like, unless you want to practice, go for it. I just can't, because I'm selfish. I want good results. So I feel like if I just open up the floodgates and, oh yeah, I offer this, this, and this, I'm never going to be, and not that I consider myself an expert, because like I said, like, I'm not, but I'm never going to have that knowledge that I need to know.
I hear that a lot of times from the people that know the most. I'm not an expert, but compared to a lot of people, you are.
Yeah, but I never.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's interesting because a lot of people who really want to be experts but really aren't. And
Those are the red flags you have to watch out for. And, like I said, when I'm talking, like I did this past weekend at WorldLink to a couple of new providers that just get like, and like I did, I started out with hormones. I got really good at hormones. I got comfortable with hormones. I've been doing hormones since 2014. Like, because that is one thing I started in our practice, just because now, granted, I started with creams. Then, then I did orals, did injectables. Now I do pellets, but now we offer everything, right? Um, but even with me being 12 years doing hormones and doing a lot of hormones, there's still onsets. Like, there's still things, and again, it goes back. You got to go back to the cell. The cell never lies. Like, if a woman isn't methylating, there's a reason why she's not methylating. Like, and not that hormones cause cancer, because we know they don't. But, if cancer arises, you got to understand. So where did what pathway was that hormone not getting pushed down? And fix that pathway. I think he's a scientist, but Dr. Goodnow, I don't know if you've ran that man, Like, I'm in his elite practitioner group, and, like, he's already onto something. But I can tell you, like, his methylation pathway of how he's fixing that coupling, that miscoupling, um, from plasmalogens and his all of his B vitamins and his niacin, his assisting, that is almost immortal health right there. Like, if people understood, like, I went, this past summer, finally joined, like, his elite practitioner group because initially I just thought it was for researchers. I'm like, they're not gonna want me," but it's not, like, they're wanting, and basically we're the testers, but I have quite a few patients on his, and I hate to use the word protocol, but that's what it is, and, different onsets. Like, I have a couple of women that have breast cancer right now that just didn't wanna go down that conventional route, and he actually has a facility in Moose Jaw, Canada, that you can send people to, and they get them started with, the plasmalogens, and obviously they do all the blood testing because he does. I don't know how familiar you are with his prodromal, his, biometric,
He's the guy who's the prodrome. Yeah.
correct, yeah. But, like, it's so he tells the story and, like, of his dad had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He was doing these prodromal scans with it's a blood test is what it is, but it's not like any other blood test we know of. It's like looking at the pathways, that fat oxidative stress, how the water is moving through the cell. And he had, like, I don't know how many tests of his dad, but that's when a light bulb to me came on of, I don't know, he probably showed 20 or 30 of his dad's lab work. And he says, "See, this is where the cancer started before it was even cancer." And then he showed it on a breast cancer survivor and all this. So, I mean, like, he was able to, so you see this, you see how the cell, that's where the cancer started. Because most cancers, they're present 7 to 10 years before they're known cancer. Especially breast cancer. I mean, almost any cancer, but especially breast cancer. Like, it's not like a woman gets breast cancer like that. Like, it's that cell, and that's where, like, one thing that I am so excited for is that, like, because I mean, he truly has the ability, and the cool thing about Dr. Goodnow, his organization, is he's his own system. Like, he owns his lab, he owns the manufacturing, like, he doesn't rely on any other outside sources, and I just, my hope for him is he's gotten a new marketing team, and I think he's growing a little too fast because I can just tell you because you order these kits, and, it used to be a week or two. Now you're 4 to 6 weeks. Like, he's obviously having an issue with distribution and manufacturing, from his plasmalogens. Because I mean, it's multifactorial. It's a lab issue, but then those plasmalogens, especially his PC, it's highly, highly refined egg yolk is what it is. With the cysteine choline, like I said, it's hard to get a hold of his products, but they work. And I've sent a few patients. In fact, a woman right now that has breast cancer went up to his facility in Moose Jaw, and she's freaking phenomenal. And she's and she's like, "I think I'm fixed," and she doesn't have cancer. She feels that much better. And not to say I'm not excited with Leonard and Frank, because, like, those men are dear to my heart.
Who's got the phospholipids?
That's Dr. Goodnow.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a prodrome test.
Yeah.
That I got
So
from.
that was his old one. He now has a biometric test.
Yeah.
But he has 2 different layers now.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I probably need to go do it.
Yeah.
The bottom line is I got the first one. I set it on a shelf, forgot to do it. Then I got the other one, got it sent, had the people that could actually do
You have to dry it on send it on dry ice and all that.
So they came out to my house through the blood, and then for whatever reason, it coagulated, and the test was no good. And since that time, I haven't.
No, that's the thing about his is we draw them at our clinic. I don't let, like, if patients want it done, I won't send it to one of their outside labs, just because, I mean, it's a $1,200 or $1,600 test. I mean, it's not cheap. And then, again, it goes back, I'm selfish. I want good results. And so versus, I mean, we have the dry ice. I mean, because you have to freeze it immediately before you put it in the dry ice, and then it has to arrive frozen. I'm hoping he can figure out the manufacturing because that's where things because what he has works without a doubt. I mean,
I've heard so many good things about it. It's like, it's incredible.
well, and he's just what I appreciate about him is he brings simplicity to the complex. And I because again, he's a farmer too. He grew up on a farm, and so his analogies, he's always, I think that's why I relate to him, because he puts such simple thoughts and now to a very complex situation. And, I always tell him, like, if I could only have half of his brain, just even a third of his brain, I'd be happy with. Because I mean, the guy is, like, in my opinion, he's on Dr. Seats level. Like, he's a mad scientist.
It's interesting. Don't you feel like in life there's like, you look at Bill Seeds, brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
Right? You look at Goodnow, brilliant. Pastrana, brilliant.
Yeah,
Yerth,
brilliant.
Abid.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, like, they just,
yeah.
And there are others.
Oh, there's, yeah.
Admittedly, all exposure to all of those people came through Seeds.
Me too. I mean, that's how,
yeah.
And that's what kind of breaks my heart, because we were better together. Like, when I go to a lot of conferences, and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, and it takes away from my work, but it's kind of where we're at. And I'm hoping one day, I hope that, whatever the dividing factor is can get brought back, because like I said, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Not to say, I mean, everybody is doing phenomenal thing, but and I guess this is one of my frustrating things. Like, if you look at everyone's mission, it's basically the same mission as, just creating life change, right? I mean, like, yes, they might all have their own different wording, but when you really get down to it, it's like we're all trying to create life change for our patients. And I hope at some point in time in the near future, we can all kind of get back together. We can make such a huger impact on society's overall health, if we were doing it together. But that's probably wishes, because it's hard, when you get people with egos, it's hard.
And, at the same time though, right? If you take it from a faith-based perspective, maybe there's a reason why God's having you say exactly what you're saying right in this moment, which is that at some point in time, every single one of those people we mentioned will watch this episode. They'll see it, and they'll think to themselves, yeah, you know what? I had something recently where I had to pick up the phone and just call somebody and say, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care about whatever. We are, a friend died.
Yeah.
And I had a beef with somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Not worth it.
No.
First of all, I don't want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Not good for me.
No.
So I'm going to release that.
Yeah.
And the minute we both kind of let go, it was like, boom, we were right back in it, talking like we all, so good. And you know what? I came away from that feeling so much better about just like life in general. Yeah. I mean, it's like really, it's a powerful thing. And, maybe that is the moment where, people say to themselves, the more important thing is achieving the greater good, that bigger outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Hormonal health. I mean, obviously, you hear these stories. Women go through this period of time in life, and a lot of them wind up getting divorced and having all sorts of issues and all sorts of stuff. I think men go through some sort of phase in life where it's very similar.
Yeah.
Patient comes to see you. You're starting with labs. You're starting with an in-body. You're trying to understand your goals, kind of like what you said to me before we started the show. Well, hey, Jock, what are your goals lately? What are you trying to achieve? From there, from a patient management standpoint, it's always just like the continuous check-in, and you just keep pumping out a barrel of oil a day, right? You just keep it moving forward, slow and steady. No major, I mean, obviously some people have amazing results quickly, but you're really focused on true health and longevity in the sense of health span, I think. Correct. What I took away from what you said is not so much, hey, I don't want to live to be 100 and have the last 10 years be absolutely terrible. I want to maybe live to be 90 and feel great through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do people need to know about the sick care model that we're in today and how to escape it?
Well, I mean, they don't want health, right? I mean, they need disease for it. I mean, it is a money-making machine, I think we all know, right? I mean, they don't exist without making their billions of dollars they make every year. Granted, you have a few diamonds in the roughs that are stuck in that Western model again, kind of like going back to this last conference, it was, I don't know, there was probably 300, 400 people. I mean, the room was full. But it was just like, it blew my freaking mind. How many of them I'm just like, you're getting educated, like, this should be blowing your mind, but yet you guys are gonna go back to practice Monday morning and the same, like, are you just trying to beat yourself up? Like, do you like that? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? So I think it really, going back, I use that saying a lot, like when people say, well, why don't you take insurance? Because I was like, I refuse to be told what I'm worth. And I refuse for you to be told what your health is worth. Because at the end, that's what it is. And I says, I don't play that game. If you want to play that game, and there's a few clinics in Albuquerque that still take insurance that try to do what we do. But again, like you have to you can't be halfway in, halfway out. You can't be in this longevity space trying to do it right, but yet still taking insurance. It doesn't work. Like, and those clinics that are still doing it, they're not financial. They're not happy. And they understand it's just, but for whatever reasoning, they have that fear factor that's just driving them. Um, but so I think, going back to your point, ask yourself, I think as a patient, are you really healthy? And what does health look like to you? Are you sleeping good? Do you have energy throughout the day? Are you content with, where your life is, again, physically, emotionally, spiritually? And if it's not, then that's kind of a red flag that you being in, especially like if you're on prescription medications that are just treating a symptom, it's kind of a red flag to you that you need, that needs to be a wake-up call for you. And make it be a wake-up call before you have an event where it has to be a wake-up call. Before you get in that fork in the road in the sense of, okay, either, you're going to continue to go down this disease state and really not live a life of health, or you have the ability. And I tell people, you always have the ability. There's not an age or like, you're 70 years old, you're not gonna be able to make it. I mean, I have a huge age population. Like, I have 30-year-olds that come to me, but it has been phenomenal. I would say the last year or two, how many 70s and 80-year-olds are coming to me now? Like, I would say my average is probably 30 to 65. But, like, I have, and they're full of fire, spit, and, like, I always say, like, there's some brilliant minds in our 70s and our 80s that, they are still very much living life, and they have so much to give to our society, and they understand choosing that health maintenance over disease maintenance. So, I think, going back, like, I think there needs to be a wake-up call, not only from a patient perspective, but also from providers. Like, there is some brilliant providers out there. What's made it hard for providers to really excel and succeed, it's the system. The system has failed them, just like the system has failed the patient. And the whole healthcare system. Like, even in Albuquerque, like, I know, we're not known for our healthcare, and we're always either 48th or 50th, and we're always on the opposite of the good, from, like, all the statistics as far as United we're always, like, we're either gonna be 48th, 49th, or 50th. It's a given on crime, education, health. But I also look at it like, look what opportunity we have to fix it. I guess I see it as a positive, not a negative, but that's my internal optimist. And the challenge of it, it's like, I always tell my staff, it's like, "Look, guys, like, the bar is set pretty damn low for us to succeed, but that's not what we're shooting for." Like, I mean, clinics like mine, unless you just provide really bad care and you don't have any kind of systems in place, you're gonna be successful. It's just to what degree. And our statement for the clinic as far as is, is providing excellence with every touch because we are the exception. Like my staff, like when they're hired and with every meeting, we say that. I mean, and I make sure like that minute we walk in, that is our duty, is we provide excellence with every touch because we are the exception. I'm not shooting, like we already know we can. I mean, like I said, sadly, because we're either the 48th, 49th, or 50th, the bar is pretty damn low in New Mexico. But that's not what we're shooting for.
Yeah, well, you're a microcosm within a
Yeah.
bigger thing. Well, you're doing some great stuff.
Oh, thank you.
And, I always say to people that I think are really interesting, I hope you'll come back.
Oh, yeah, I'd love
and we
to.
can check in and sort of like, hey, I got that DEXA and now I'm doing this and I'm moving on to these things. And I think it's going to be really phenomenal to keep talking about the things that you do. Any final kind of parting thoughts on?
No, just like I said, I remember when you called me, I'm like, you have access to anybody. Why are you calling me? I think that was like, because I mean, but I'm okay being a small person. Like that doesn't, I guess that's not what feeds my soul. What feeds my soul is when I see that person's picture change in 6 months, as far as patient wise. But no, I mean, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Like I said, I always know that none of this is of me, and that there's absolutely a higher power, and I'm thankful that I'm a part of it.
Well, you're doing great work, and you have a phenomenal energy about you. And that was one thing that when I first met you, I was like, wow, you just have this thing about you that you're gonna deliver, and you can. There's that pathway is we go back to that pathway of peak performance, right? Going all the way back to where you were running at Texas Tech, go Red Raiders.
Yeah, yeah.
Just all the way through. And I think it's something about you that is sort of like, I'm not quitting until I step off the planet. I'm going to give it everything I've got, which is why I was like, hey, I need to have Kristi Fury on the show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks everyone for watching the show. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out here at the channel, and share the video with someone who might be interested in supporting the charity that our guest mentioned in the episode. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.